Let's just think about your day for a second. Chances are you've already used your phone, you've searched for something online, maybe you even checked a map. And well, Google was probably there for all of it, right? It's so integrated into our lives, we don't even think about it. But what if that incredible convenience has a hidden cost? That's the billion-dollar question at the heart of a massive legal fight we're about to unpack. And that really gets to the core of it for all of us. When you type something into that search bar, are you actually making a free choice? Or is the game kind of rigged from the start? It's a question that could change how the entire internet works. Well, the US Department of Justice, they definitely have an answer. In a truly landmark lawsuit, they've laid out this case that argues Google didn't just win the search engine race fair and square. They say Google unlawfully broke the rules to make sure no one else could even compete. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to uncover 4 of the biggest secrets that came out of these court documents. We're talking about the money, the ads, your phone, and maybe most importantly, what Google's own employees were saying when they thought no one was listening. All right, let's dive right into secret number 1. And this one is all about the money. We're talking about a jaw-dropping amount of cash that Google pays out not to build a better product, but just to make sure it's the only real choice you see. Get ready for this number, $26 billion. That's what the court testimony revealed Google paid in a single year to companies like Apple and Samsung just to be the preset automatic default search engine on the phone in your pocket and the browser on your computer. Now, here's where the DOJ says it becomes more than just a business deal. They call it a self-reinforcing cycle. It's a pretty brilliant and kind of vicious playbook. You pay billions to be the default, which gets you about half of all searches right off the bat. That means your competitors, like Bing or DuckDuckGo, are starved of the data they need to get better. So they can't improve, you stay on top, and you just keep repeating the cycle. And all that dominance in search, well, it's the key that unlocks our second secret. This is where we move away from the search bar and look at the engine that truly powers Google, the absolutely massive world of digital advertising. You know, to really get your head around the problem here, you don't even have to listen to the government's lawyers. One of Google's own senior executives said it perfectly with this little gem. I mean, wow. It perfectly captures the conflict of interest. So here's the breakdown. In the digital ad world, you've got 3 main parts. You have the buyers, the advertisers, you have the sellers, the websites with ad space, and you have the auction house in the middle where they make the deals. The thing is, Google controls all 3 parts. It's the agent for the buyer, the agent for the seller, and it owns the auction house. And here's the kicker. When you own the whole system, when you're the player, the ref, and you own the stadium, you can make sure your team always wins. The lawsuit says Google does this thing called self-preferencing, basically tilting the auctions in its own favor, which ends up costing everyone else more money. Okay, moving on to secret number 3. This one's probably in your hand or your pocket right now. We're not talking about the browser anymore. We're talking about the operating system on billions of phones, Android. So, the court found that Google essentially gives phone makers a deal they can't refuse. If a company like Samsung wants access to the all-important Google Play Store for apps, well, they have to pre-install a whole bunch of other Google apps, and here's the big one, they have to lock in Google as the only default search engine. It just slams the door shut on any competition. And look, this wasn't just an accusation that was thrown around. After all the evidence was presented, the judge came back with a crystal clear conclusion. He said, and I'm quoting here, Google has acted to maintain its monopoly in violation of Section 2 of the Sherman Act. That's a law that's been on the books for over a century to stop exactly this kind of thing. And that brings us to our final secret, which is maybe the most telling one of all. This is about what Google knew, when they knew it, and the lengths they allegedly went to cover their tracks. One of the most fascinating pieces of evidence was something called Google's history off chat policy. So inside the company, their internal chats were set up to automatically delete messages after just 24 hours. They just vanish. Now, Google might argue this was just a data policy, but the DOJ, they had a very, very different take. They argued this was a deliberate, systematic plan to destroy evidence, to make sure any incriminating conversations about their anti-competitive behavior disappeared into thin air. And it gets better. During the trial, Google's own data scientists basically admitted it. Their own internal studies showed that their massive dominance wasn't just because their product was so much better. It was driven by being the default and by what they called user inertia, which is just a fancy way of saying we're too lazy to change the settings.
Okay, so the court has dropped the hammer. Google acted as an illegal monopolist. That brings us to the huge question, what now? The fight isn't over. It's just moving to a new critical phase, figuring out how to fix it.
This next part is officially called the remedy phase. You can basically think of it as the sentencing after the verdict is in. It's where the judge decides what Google has to do to clean up the mess and hopefully make the market fair again. And the stakes here are just massive. The judge has already banned those exclusive default deals we talked about, but the government is pushing for way more. They're talking about forcing Google to sell off parts of its ad business, or even making them share data with competitors to help level the playing field. Look, at the end of the day, this entire case sends a huge shockwave through the tech world. It's basically a confirmation that the old antitrust laws still have teeth in the digital age. It says that no matter how big or successful you are not above the law. Which really just leaves us with this one final, powerful question to think about. When one company becomes the gatekeeper for so much of our digital lives, who's supposed to be guarding the gate?